Hey everybody, thanks for coming back to the channel. I am once again very lucky to have one of my favorite YouTubers on here. We got Eli Knight on the show. Eli, thank you for making the time to be here, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. This is great.
Yeah. Let's do a little for the audience and just for my editing purposes. Well, I'll count down 3, 2, 1, and then we'll clap whenever I hit 1. You clap. I'll clap on 1. And then you clap when you hear me say 1, so we have an idea of there's a little delay or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ready? So 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it's not that bad. Okay, cool.
Pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So how's your day so far, man?
It's good. I haven't been physical at all today because I've been trying to catch up on things and also plan out things for the weekend because I have to travel tomorrow. So I've been sedentary but productive. So yeah.
I mean, I find that it's never a bad thing to have like a little, physical rest day for your body. I feel like that's, probably a great way to not get injured.
Yeah, I know. I've tried to do that a little bit more, but it doesn't really work out that way most of the time. So it's like the days that I don't have a heavy load for teaching and training, then I'm like, I really need to go to the gym and get my body a little bit in better shape so I protect from the injuries whenever I am training. So everything's just maintenance these days, trying to avoid the next injury.
Sure, same. I get you. So I don't know if you've seen any of the other interviews I've done, but so I usually start off with the same question for everybody, just to get a temperature of their personality. And if you don't have an answer for it, that's fine. There's a follow-up question. But do you have a favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and if so, who is it?
I did actually glance through some of your other episodes and just to see some of the topics that you guys covered, and I noticed that was a fairly consistent one. And that's pretty easy it is and it's not, because I mean, I've got so many thoughts on the Ninja Turtles, man. Like growing up, when I was a kid, being all into Ninja Turtles, obviously, because I was cool, and so they all obviously bring different archetypes to the table. They all different, represent different characteristics, and they're incomplete as standalone. But I have to say, if we're just basing it strictly on favorite, my favorite was usually always Michelangelo. And I think if I had to really quantify that, if I had to really put reasoning behind that, then it would be because, first of all, he's got the worst weapon. By far, the nunchucks are just the most horrible weapon ever. So that means he's got to be, in my opinion, at least as skilled or more skilled than the other guys. I mean, he didn't have the size are pretty lame too, but at least they can kill people. It's hard to kill somebody with nunchucks, and at least a bow staff has distance on it, and then you got Leonardo with 2 swords, so he's got way more of an advantage. So I figure Michelangelo's got to be pretty badass, and then on top of that, though, he also has a kind of the best personality. He's always the funny one. He doesn't take things too seriously. He always keeps a good positive outlook. So it's hard to beat that. It's hard to beat all those things wrapped up in one. That's why he's my favorite.
That's a great answer. I appreciate the. I feel like we're on the same wavelength. Just from your intro, okay, I got a lot of thoughts on the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, man. I overanalyze everything like that, man. But it's when it comes to anything comic book related or action figures or superheroes, anything like that, I'm gonna put way too much thought into it.
Same. So in addition to that question, now that we understand each other, so you have your favorite turtle. Now, which turtle works as far as your personality goes, as a teammate? Who do you pair off with if you have to split the team up? Who's your partner turtle?
Who do I want by my side? Who do I want? Man, geez, it's tough because I'd say either Leonardo, because he tends to have his shit together, so he's gonna have the plan, he's gonna have the ability and capacity to operate in high stress environments. I think that Raphael is gonna be a solid fighter, and extremely tough and durable and brave and all those characteristics, but I don't think that he's gonna be the more thoughtful kind of one. So I'd probably have to go with Leonardo. Although Donatello would be hard to argue against because he's got the brains, and so if you really need some innovation and you need some tech support, and I guess it depends on the mission. Honestly, I'd probably either go with Leonardo or Donatello.
Yeah. I think those are good choices. I the way I usually see it, because I'm like a Leonardo personality type, I think, and I always think that Michelangelo is the best pairing with my personality type. So I agree with that. And I think that putting Raph and Donnie together is a good idea, because if Raph is going to be emotional, Donatello is not going to respond to that. He's not like that, He's just going to be like, okay, now whatever. So
it is. It really is like 4 kind of archetypical personalities and like character traits that really all complement each other. I don't know how much of that thought went into the original design of them, but I think that as the years progressed, and I think that really when they fleshed out the characters and they took them on a little bit more seriously, then I think that that's what really developed out of that. So it's a brilliant storyline, honestly, and it sounded so silly whenever it came out, like when the I guess mid 80s or so, like whenever the Turtles came out. I just remember hearing that, and it was the funniest thing. And around the same time, I remember seeing around the same time, and I don't know if it was ever created. I always mean to look into it, then I forget about it. Was adult thermonuclear samurai elephants came out too, and I don't know if somebody was doing that as a competitor comic, to just completely juxtapose the Ninja Turtles. But I was like, man, what a name for a group. I want to see those fight. I want to see the elephants and the turtles fight. But I need to look that up and see if that was a real thing. Maybe it was just a fever dream I had, but I remember seeing it pretty clear.
No, dude, that sounds vaguely familiar. I remember samurai pizza cats, because that was definitely a thing too.
Don't remember that one. Wow, okay.
I can't believe there hasn't already been a team up or like a Turtles comic that grabs those other less, because the licensing couldn't be who holds the license to samurai pizza cats,
Right, yeah. I mean, hell, they teamed up with Batman. I remember wasn't there a movie that they did the Turtles and Batman? I never saw it, but I remember seeing that team up. So there has to be something like that, right?
Oh yeah. That was. I've seen. Did I see the movie? I have the comics, when they released those comics a few years ago. I have the Turtles Batman team up, and some of the drawings from Kevin Eastman himself are fucking awesome. They're so cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's what it was. I think I saw the comic, and I know they put out an animated movie for it too. So I'm gonna have to check both those out.
Yeah. Have you seen Turtles Forever?
No. Wait, is that the newest animated?
It was the 2003 animated movie. It was there's the series, and then there was the movie from that series. It incorporates they start jumping through different turtle universes. It's amazing. It's the anniversary animated movie. So you get
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I did watch the most recent movie on a plane recently. I was flying and I saw it pop up, and it was what was the newest movie that they made where Baxter Stockman and it was the one that Ice Cube did. Ice Cube was was Superfly in it. I was looking through the cast of that, and I was like, what the hell? You got Seth Rogen, Ice Cube, and all these people in this movie. But it was pretty cool. That was pretty well done.
I liked it too. I thought they did a nice job.
Yeah.
So let's get into what's your can you give me a breakdown of your martial arts background, how you got into martial arts and kind of your journey?
I'm getting better at this, I think. Let's see. I started in Taekwondo when I was 14, I think. About 14 years old, because that's all we really had that I knew about around the area, because I was in a small town in Kentucky, so there wasn't a lot, and it was the early 90s, and then I started after about a year and a half, going on 2 years almost. I started to train with a gentleman named Jason Hawkins, who was a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. It was the easiest to say, it was a Japanese style of Jiu-Jitsu, more than Brazilian, but it was actually kind of had some Filipino influence. It was a cool style, and he was just into everything martial arts related. He had a background in Okinawan karate and in a lot of other stuff, and in judo. He was getting into Filipino martial arts, Indonesian silat, Jeet Kune Do, all that stuff, studying under Dan Inosanto. Okay. And so when I started with him, I just wanted to do everything. I wanted to do everything that there was. So for a number of years, and we were starting to just starting to see about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right before UFC 1. And obviously, we're doing Jiu-Jitsu, and so whenever UFC 1 came out and we saw how Royce and the Gracie family did Jiu-Jitsu, then we were like, oh shit, that's different than our Jiu-Jitsu. It's like we recognize some stuff, but it was the process and the formula that they took. It was their approach and just the technicality of it, and there's the practicality of it too. So anyway, we definitely wanted to figure out how we could train with any and all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people, particularly obviously the Gracie family. And so we went to see luckily right after that, Royce and Horian and even Grandmaster Elio, they started like going all over the nation, all over the world doing seminars. And so we were able to catch them at seminars that weren't too terribly far away. And then we started traveling farther, and we started going to see them at camps and longer training periods. And so we eventually became in short order became a network under Royce. So we were basically we were originally with Gracie Academy, because it was Gracie Academy, it was Horian, Royce, and Kaiki back then were the main ones at Gracie Academy. And then whenever Royce split off, we just stayed with him as one of his flagship networks. And so over the next few years, less and less I was doing other martial arts. I was doing Filipino martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, Muay Thai, that I stuck with for second longest, and some judo and like just everything, but had to kind of prioritize a little bit. So I stuck with the jiu-jitsu, and that was kind of where I stuck the longest. And so I've always just been under, as far as my lineage, I've always been under Royce. And I got my third degree black belt, third degree on my black belt last September. And it took me about estimated like maybe 15, 16 years to get my black belt. And then that was back in 2011. So I've had it for 12 years now. Let's see what else. The past probably, I don't know, decade or so, my focus has really been on, jiu-jitsu evolves so quickly these days, and there's always something new and something trendy and something evolving, something innovative popping up. And I try to keep my finger on the pulse as much as possible, which is that's a full-time job in itself, because it's in addition to that, I like every aspect. So I kind of divide up jiu-jitsu in 4 main modalities as far as gi grappling, no gi grappling, MMA, or self-defense, right? So there's my passion lies in finding the overlap, the common threads in between all those things, because I figure that's going to be the best way to train. If you only do things in the most reality-based, strict self-defense, then you're going to cut out a lot of the really cool jiu-jitsu, and you're going to miss out not only on things that are going to help you in rolling and training and open mats and tournaments and everything else, but you're also going to greatly diminish your ability to roll at a high level. And to me, that's where a lot of the pressure testing, it's an overused phrase, but a lot of the pressure testing really comes in, is rolling at that high level. And so whenever I like the extremely sporty stuff, but I also like to see, what, with as little modification as possible, what techniques work in every modality. That's my favorite aspect of jiu-jitsu, and there's a lot, actually. So anyway, the reason I bring that up and tracing back my background is that that led me to working with a lot of individuals that are kind of ancillarily involved in jiu-jitsu, or maybe not even. So, working with people that are in the Krav Maga world, or people that are in more reality-based self-defense, or more into the tactical world, or whatever. And it's really interesting to kind of see what their focus is, where our differences lie, where our commonalities lie, and to be able to collaborate to really come up with some cool stuff, and so anyway, that's been kind of my background. I've dabbled in a lot of stuff, for better and worse, but stuck with jiu-jitsu more than anything. So I just call everything that I do basically these days jiu-jitsu, which, if you have a YouTube channel or any social media at all and you post something, you call it jiu-jitsu, you're going to get catch wrestlers on there be like, nah, this is catch wrestling, or no, this is sambo, oh no, that's judo, and the Gracie family stole judo and called it jiu-jitsu. And it's just you get all these kind of things. To me, to me, it's jujitsu if I do it through a lens of jujitsu. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if this throw or that transition or that sweep or this whatever. I can punch somebody in the face, and if it's done in the right technical aspects, it's still jujitsu-y to me. So it's
absolutely
that's why it's like a catch-all kind of term. And I feel like I've served enough time. I've dedicated like 3 decades of my life now to where I have that right to call, you know, things that may not be the most strictly adherent from a technical level jiu-jitsu. I still can call it that, you know, so I don't really care anymore, you know.
Absolutely, no, I absolutely agree with that. In fact, I've had this thought where, like, the word jiu-jitsu to me, it's kind of like the word, like the Tao, where people say, like, what is the Tao? It's like, it's not a thing.
Right.
It's like, it's the way the things work, right? It's like the way, like, so to me, jiu-jitsu is just like efficiency, right? It's like a physical efficiency. So it's like, if I'm doing it in a jiu-jitsu way, I'm just doing it as efficiently as I possibly can be doing it.
Yeah, dude, no, I think that's the simplest. That's way simpler than I put it, because I would try to like over explain the hell out of everything, but that really is, I mean, the simplest terms. So like my ongoing kind of tongue-in-cheek comment that I make a lot of the time that has really sparked some interesting conversations and really had people kind of raise some eyebrows to me, especially when I say it when I'm teaching, is that like Aikido is the highest form of martial art that there is. The problem is that you can't reach it through Aikido. It's such a high level, but it's a philosophy. It's not even a real martial art, you know. So it's like the way that you try to attain that level is through jiu-jitsu. You know, jiu-jitsu is a practical form of Aikido. It's and the reason for that is, like, you know, you're saying, is like it's about efficiency. It's about doing things in the most efficient way possible. Okay, well, when you apply efficiency to fighting, what does that look like? So you know, the old maxim, like the mythical kind of concept, is use your opponent's energy against them. You know, that's the cliche kind of thing. And it's like every martial art claims that. Like every martial art goes by that mantra, basically. You know, because otherwise it's not a martial art. It's just violence. You know what I mean? Like if my martial art requires me to be massively overpowering the people I fight, well, just go to the gym, dude. Do steroids. I don't know. Like, it's like be bigger and stronger and faster. But if you're taking a technical approach, well, now that efficiency has to manifest itself in the way of like, you encounter resistance, and then you figure out what to do with that resistance. You don't seamlessly flow with anything. That's impossible, right? You have to have a moment of friction where you kind of ascertain, what's this energy this person's given me behind this kind of attack or this kind of movement. Then you can redirect it. You can use it against them somehow. You can manipulate that energy because you've acquired data on what it actually is, you know, and that requires a moment of resistance now. And so hopefully, you know, over time, like that moment of resistance gets smaller and smaller and shorter, and you're able to like pick it up faster, you know. But it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there.
Yeah. Kind of like you know, like those Plinko games, you know, like it's that you drop the ball, and like good. I think like sometimes good jiu-jitsu to me looks like it's like the person just collapsing slowly onto, you know, like one level at a time. Like just you hit that resistance and you just like go around. It looks like you're the ball and you just play it like bing 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 all the way down. You know. Yeah.
No, that's cool. No, I like that analogy because like like what is something I'm always talking about whenever I'm teaching something, especially positionally, but with anything. It's like begin with the end in mind. And this is where I historically probably still do make this mistake a lot, but in the past I made this mistake a lot in my teaching, and I see people make this mistake egregiously and they're not even aware of it. But it's like I tell people begin with the end in mind, and the reason for that is because like if I just give you a process to say, okay, we're going to work on this move today, and I start going through the steps of the move, and now I get to step 4, 5, 6, 7. And you're like, what the hell were we doing again? Like, and people are just trying to memorize the steps, and they get untethered, they get lost. And it's like, well, where are you trying to get to? You know what I mean? Like, if you could take the first couple steps and you screw up the next 3, as long as you know where you're trying to get to, you're probably going to fumble around and get close, you know? And then you can figure the rest out. So, you know, that's what's fascinating to me when, you know, I don't know, I don't want to get on too many tangents, but it's like the idea of the ecological approach, which is like really a popular thing right now. And it's everywhere that I turn, I'm seeing ecological approach. I'm like, bro, how else do people train? Like, I mean, like unless you're very young and in training, that's kind of how you train. You get together, you pose problems, you create games, you create like specified positional isolation, and you problem solve through that, and you give yourself certain parameters that you don't violate. And granted, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, because I think what people like Greg Souders has done, and people that have really put in a lot of work to the ecological system, I think they are on something brilliant, and I absolutely respect the hell out of them. But the things that I'm curious about, that I'm still researching on a little bit, because I want to make sure that I don't misspeak, is like, first of all, you kind of have to have a blended approach. You can't really jump into strictly ecological from day one. I just don't think that's a real thing, because like you have to have somebody point out the details of a technique, especially when it comes to submissions, I think. Yeah. Positionally, you can figure a lot out by placing people in certain restrictive games, but I don't think that's going to quite work with actual breaking mechanics and actual like applications of submissions and stuff. But anyway, that's a whole nother kind of topic, but it's something that's been kind of interesting. And like I said, I try to keep my finger on the pulse of all the I don't want to disrespect it by calling it a trend, but it is popular right now, so I am trying to look at that way.
Yeah. No, so I've been also like kind of, people have been suggesting a lot of those podcasts with Greg and some of the other guys talking about it, and like it's interesting, but it's funny because like it's the way that they speak about it. Sometimes I started listening to the podcast. I'm like, what you're talking about is making things simpler, but the way that you're talking about it, yeah, it's like I'm listening to like a whole paragraph of like, what the fuck did you just say, man? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's so funny. I think that's a really common kind of a thing with a lot of people is. In the effort to make things to simplify things, we take the most complicated approach possible, right? So it's like here's how we're gonna simplify our approach to jiu-jitsu. Let me explain it in a complete like catalog of how to accomplish it. And yeah, I don't know. I think that really what that would require is kind of being I would again, I'm still researching it, so I think it would really be like immersing yourself in that environment, because what it makes me think of is like, if I want to learn a foreign language, like I took Spanish in college and I crushed it. I was straight A's. Everything was like I was flawless in that class. I worked my ass off. If I went to a Spanish-speaking environment, I couldn't hold a conversation with a 2-year-old. Like, because it's a whole different thing being fluent enough to be conversational and have an immediate recall of what's supposed to be happening, even if you understand the context, versus learning it in a classroom where you're going through the vocab and the grammar and the structure and all that stuff. So I get from that perspective that the ecological approach is like, it's like immersing you in the environment. So it's like dropping somebody into a Spanish-speaking environment for them to learn Spanish. They're going to pick it up, but there's still going to have to be some technicality out of it. There's still going to have to be some learning proper like grammatical structure and things like that. So to me, I use that analogy a lot whenever I'm approaching learning a new thing. As far as like the like second language acquisition or something, because it's just a physical language that we're learning essentially.
Yeah. And I think it's the same as a lot of stuff. I mean, really any kind of like art. Like I don't know if you play any music, but I play music also. And so there's like with my band, we talk about this sometimes, where the way that like people who go to like a music school learn to play, say, jazz. Like there's a big jazz school right around here at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, and so. You got people in the program who, there's some people who like, if you play a song for them, they could like notate out exactly what's happening and probably explain to you like why it's making you feel this way when this chord does this or whatever. But like, if you talk to the artist who performed that piece, you'd be like, hey, is this what you were thinking about? They'd be like, what are you talking about? No, I had a beer. I had a beer and like I got yelled at by my boss earlier today, and I smoked a joint and I played the horn. That's what happened. Yeah.
I know. I think that's exactly right, and I think because that's up to a lot of that is up to the production team. I think, and it's interesting you bring up the music analogy. I just read one of my daughter's she's in college at Belmont University in Nashville, and she's going for songwriting. She's been immersed in music since she was a baby. She's been like 2 years old. She started like playing keyboard. Like she's just brilliant, absolute prodigy. I don't know anything. I had zero acumen for music. I wish I did. That part of my brain never developed, and I never really put a lot of effort into it, obviously, either. But I have a deep appreciation, and when I see what she's able to do, from just a sheer musicality level, and now she's getting this deeper education, it blows me away. She wrote this paper recently, and she lets me look over her papers because like I at least have the English side, so I can kind of like look at the structure of how she's writing and stuff, and I can help with that. But like looking at the subject matter, and she was like taking these 4 songs, and they were pop songs, ones that I would hear and just be like, that is the most vapid, like empty, shallow song. One was like a Kesha song or something. No disrespect, but like it's silly pop songs,
Yeah.
And the way that she broke down like the structure of the song, and like it just absolutely blew me away. She was talking about like at this section here, what they're doing and how they're overlaying these different sounds and how they're using this instrument and how they make the change and what the bridge is doing for the song. And it's like, wow, man, it's like I get that I would expect in a complex, deep song, you could do that, but just to take like just a silly pop song and still see like all that stuff at play, that's really amazing to me. So I think it's that same kind of idea. So it's easier to apply meaning to something that wasn't necessarily intentional after the fact.
Absolutely.
That's part of why I quit, because I wanted to go to school for art my entire life. Like my entire life, it was just like since I was a baby, I was like, I'm gonna be an artist. That's it. I'm gonna be an artist, and it's done and done. Yeah. And I stayed that way until all the way through community college, and then transferred to a 4-year college, and I was going to the art department. And I was like, man, 2 things. I don't want to do like graphic design, right? Which I wound up doing, but like I didn't want to do it. I want to do fine arts, like the real stuff. And I got into the art department, and there's these pretentious little shits in this department, and it's just like they were so full of themselves, and it was so much of like they would attach just layers of meaning onto stuff that I know while you were making this thing that was not intentional. You're just trying to come up. You just read something in a philosophy book and attached it to this bullshit that you turned out, and some of them were talented, but most of them, the ones that were doing the abstract kind of stuff. I'm like, it's abstract because you lack fundamentals, because you can't do realism. It's like you don't fall back on that. It's like the masters of like abstract impressionism and things like that. They had the ability. It's just they transcended like that to the next level. You didn't transcend anything. You just never got to where you could master the fundamentals and the basics. And now you're trying to call, whatever you're doing, abstract or something else because it sounds smarter. And I see people with their jiu-jitsu like that sometimes. I see people who are like, well, I do it this way, and it's like, well, don't do it that way. Like your way, like I granted you have this unique way of doing this thing and it's not working, so why continue? Like learn it the right way. Learn it a better way.
When someone's like that, you see it like someone throwing a ball like sidearm, it's like super sidearm. You're like, no one taught you how to do that. Do that way. You just made that up, and it doesn't work, and you're gonna hurt yourself.
Right. Yeah. It is, and it's like, but then they'll find ways to rationalize it because the corollary to it a lot of times is like, well, you go into a striking class, you go into a boxing class, it's like chin down, hands up. It's like, well, Muhammad Ali, he didn't have his hand. He had his hands down almost all the time. Roy Jones Jr. always had his hands down. This guy, and it's like, you're not those people. And I promise you that their first week of training, they weren't doing that. They didn't have that style. So it's, you gotta, man. I think that's maybe it's a product of culture or something. Like we want to like reach the high levels faster than we have patience to pay our dues in the lower levels. I don't know, man, but it's funny. It's interesting to see.
Yeah. So as a YouTuber, especially a jiu-jitsu YouTuber, and I've asked this question to some other people too. Do you have people like showing up at your gym who are like real revved up to like roll with you, or like they like maybe go too hard or whatever? Like does that happen to you?
Not really. No, I'm living in Charlotte now, North Carolina, and I've been here a little less than 2 years. Before that, I lived my entire life basically in Kentucky and trained at the same place my entire life, other than visiting and cross training. But the same academy I was at for nearly 30 years, and and so like it not often, man. Like I never had anybody that was like in a challenging way. People would come in because like they watch my channel and they want to come in, they want to take a lesson, they want to take a class, they want to train, but nobody really ever came in gunning for me into my place, and they still don't. Now it's a little different story whenever I travel, because I go a lot of places and teach a lot of seminars, and so I have to be a little judicious about. I'm not really the type that's like I'm gonna go in and just roll with every single person, because like first of all, they have no reason not to just gun it for me, and I'll typically get one extreme or the other. Sometimes I'll get genuine people, but a lot of times I get one extreme or the other. It's like either they want to tap that guy with a big YouTube channel, because he's apparently having a big YouTube channel about jiu-jitsu means that you're good, which that's not a direct correlation, I promise. But like, or the other one is that they're like overly respectful and they're scared to like do anything because they think that if they make one good move, I'm gonna like just turn it on and like rip their head off. And it's like, no, neither one of those things is a thing, man. Like if I go into an open mat somewhere, like here in town, I like to go over and train at the open mats at Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu because it's a huge place and their open mats always have like 40, 50 people like all the time. And it's a good environment because it's got a good mix of levels too. So you can kind of like, pick and choose your roles. Everybody's cool. I go to the no-gi ones because there's less of a chance. Like, I don't know how not to say that douchey. I don't really want to be recognized a lot of the time. I don't want people to like see me and think something and I don't know, come up and like you're saying, like challenge me or whatever. I just want to go in and mix in with the crowd, and get my roles in. I don't need any kind of attention. Like, so that's why I prefer to go and like roll in like more no-gi stuff. And I spend most of the time these days training no-gi anyway. I don't do a whole lot in the gi anymore unless somebody just specifically requests a seminar for gi stuff. I prefer no-gi a lot more these days.
Yeah, I imagine having that many stripes in your black belt, putting the gi on, like, as soon as you're in the room, everyone at least wants to roll with you. If not, try to
Yeah. Right, yeah, especially and then you get questions about why does your black belt look different? Like, because I've got the blue sleeve on my black belt instead of a red sleeve, and so people see that and they're curious about it. And that's just because I come from that Royce lineage. And back in like 2018, I think 2017 maybe, he switched over to using the blue sleeve instead of the not a bit. It's actually before that. I think it was before that. I have to look at the exact date, but he switched over. So like when I got my black belt, I got the white sleeve, then I got the red sleeve, then I got my professor bars, and before I got, I think my first stripe, he switched from the red to the blue. And so all my degrees I've gotten on top has been on that blue sleeve. And it's basically just an homage to Eli Gracie. It's to his father, to his lineage, and to represent really to represent more of what as the like the self-defense foundation of jiu-jitsu above the sport. So kind of not a direct rejection per se, but kind of a rejection of the IBJJF standardization of things. So that's kind of why that blue sleeve exists. But yeah, the only ones you'll see use that are Royce and then the Valencia brothers. Right. And like if you see a blue sleeve, then somebody's probably coming from one of those backgrounds. But yeah, it gets questions a lot. Anytime I make a video, I'm guaranteed several comments in the on the video about why is your sleeve, blue instead of red. Get all kinds of different things like that.
I mean, I think the blue. Well, first of all, blue is my favorite color, and I think it looks cooler. And also, that's what it was. Elio's favorite color is blue, also, right? And that's why he always wore the blue belt at the end, right? Like
it was. Well, a couple reasons. His favorite color was blue, but beyond that, the story, the history of it, basically was like there were just 3 belts in the early days of the what would become that style of jiu-jitsu that would ultimately become Gracie jiu-jitsu. The 3 belts were white for a beginning student, blue, like a lighter blue for a more advanced or intermediate student, and then the instructor was a dark blue or navy blue. And so but so that was part of it. But beyond that too, the Elio would wear a blue belt when he was in Brazil, kind of out of protest. It was kind of in opposition to the people that he didn't agree with, walking around with these advanced ranks, you know. So because there would be high-level black belts, coral belts, even red belts that he didn't approve of because they didn't come through his family, and they just kind of like, in his opinion, just kind of ranked to themselves or ranked by committee that was outside of what he approved of. So out of protest, he would just wear a blue belt. It was like, you know, so it was kind of almost like a jiu-jitsu political statement for him.
Right. So when you're traveling around, what's your weirdest, like, YouTube related, because you have a channel, like, did you have any strange occurrences?
I don't know how strange. Like, I've gotten recognized organically in some weird places, like usually at airports. Like, people might recognize me. I think usually though it's like I'll get looks and people are kind of like, that looks like that guy, but probably not him, you know, that kind of thing. But then yeah, I've gotten recognized in a couple weird places. I got recognized in walking out of a deli kind of place in Virginia a little while back. Got recognized in Boston. So I mean, like, it's rare though. I mean, I think that it's a lot of times people think that being famous on YouTube equates to some kind of actual fame, and it's not really that. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's nothing like crazy or weird necessarily, you know.
Okay.
It is cool. Like, the most awkward things are like if I go to somebody else's seminar, because I still like to go and attend like a lot of like other people's seminars, you know, and
sure.
When people come up to me at the seminar and want pictures made with me, and I'm like, bro, it's this cool. Like, I appreciate it. Like, I'm grateful, but at the same time, this is such and so seminar over there. Like, get your picture with him. Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to, like, you know, steal anything away from the seminar or distract anybody. So, but yeah, that's a little uncomfortable. Although I appreciate it. Anytime somebody like comes up to me, and the best encounters I've had, I was down in Costa Rica at the Hero BJJ retreats, and I was actually there attending. My girlfriend and I went down there because our friend Brandon McCatherine was doing a camp that week, and we absolutely love Brandon, and so we went. It's like, man, Costa Rica and Brandon teaching, like, we got to go. Like, that'd be awesome. And so having people down there was a guy from England that he came up to me and was like, he said, man, he's like, I just want to like thank you. He's like, it's like your channel and Chewy's are my favorite jiu-jitsu channels on YouTube. And during the pandemic, when, you know, we had really harsh restrictions in England where I'm from, and we couldn't really train publicly, so my buddy and I had some mats in the living room, and we would just train along with you guys' video, and that kept us going. And I was like, oh man, that warms my heart, you know. Like, that's the best thing that I could possibly do, I think, in the community, is like help people as a resource, you know. So that's why I like to put out so much free stuff, you know. Which is a double-edged sword. I love to put out everything I can for free. I would do everything for free if I could, but then at the same time, it's like it's really restrictive if I have to like have other means of income. So trying to leverage instructionals and sell instructionals sometimes, or get people to my Patreon, or get people to actually give me money for stuff so that I can keep doing it is tricky, because I put so much out for free. It's like, what can possibly be on this instructional of yours that I'm not going to find on your YouTube channel? Yeah. And so sometimes the answer is not much. Sometimes it's like I just organized it better and went into more detail or something. But yeah, dude, it's but those are the coolest encounters that I have. I think. Nice. I'm grateful.
Absolutely. You reminded me of a story that I just heard from my buddy Rick, who works at our local like public television station, which is where they actually filmed Mr. Rogers. So like so this is a Mr. Rogers story. Apparently Mr. Rogers, when he was young, he went up to somebody, a famous person he had seen, and asked for a photo or an autograph or something. And this person said, oh, it was a photo. And the person said, like, I'd rather you wouldn't. And he said it made him feel really small. So he said that from that point on, like, anytime anybody would ask for a photo, he would say yes, because he knew, how it makes, if somebody building up the courage to come and ask you, like, hey, you know, it's like, of course, like I'm gonna every time you ask, I'm gonna do it. So it's like I feel like, you know, I'm not being bombarded by, you know, all kinds of people every day, but like I really feel that's a good way to you know, handle yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like I think unless, you know, if you're not freaking Taylor Swift or somebody, you know, I mean, I understand like you can't get just like swamped by a flood of like thousands of people and make everybody happy. I get that, but for the most part, you know, it's not like that for most people. You know, I remember like Royce was actually telling the story that he was talking to like an NBA player, pretty famous NBA player, in an airport. And they were having a conversation, and like a kid comes up and asks this basketball player, like ask Royce and ask the basketball player, because that's a cool conversation. You see this NBA player, you know, and you see Royce Gracie. It's like, you know, it's gonna come up. And the kid asked the basketball player, and the guy was like, no, he's like, I'm busy right now. I'm not taking any pictures. I'm not doing autographs. I'm not doing that right now, kind of thing. And it's like, dude, like the only reason you're famous, the only reason you're famous by definition is because of these people. Like it's because people watch you, because people support you, because people look up to you. And it's like, that's a slap in the face, man, whenever you can't even take the time to acknowledge them. Like, dude, I that blows me away. I can't imagine being like that, man. So
yeah. So getting to train with Royce and all these people, so who is, if you can think of one person, is there one person whose jiu-jitsu is the most impressive that you've ever rolled with? Like, who was? Can you name one, or maybe several people?
It's tough, man. Like I've thought about that. It's kind of hard that I've personally trained with, because there's been so many people that I've been impressed by what they do. I remember, like with Royce, the most impressive thing with him is just like how soft he can feel, like how just supple and soft and everything until he doesn't want to go a certain direction, and then it's just he's not going. And then like, and when he goes to submit you, like in this, you know, it's been years, but I just remember these things that always stuck out my mind, and I wanted to have that kind of jiu-jitsu. And it's like, if he wanted, when it was time for him to catch you, it's like you were stuck on the train tracks and the train's coming, but you just can't move, man. You're just like, I know what you're doing and I know how to defend it. Theoretically, but it's like he still catches you. It's like, dang, man, like for you to see it come and know it's coming, and it's not tricky, you know, it's not like he's, you know, he was like deceptive with it. It was just so technical and so precise. And I remember like someone else that I only trained with like twice, but it was Caltera. You know, Caltera was like, there was no wasted movement. Everything was where it needed to be when it needed to be there, and it was so precise. It's like everything was just in its right place. It's like, oh, there's space. Nope, not anymore. You know, and anywhere there was space left, it wasn't usable. You know what I mean? And like that to me is like really elegant jiu-jitsu. When I see somebody like Gordon Ryan, that's what he's doing a lot of the time. Now there's a lot of other stuff he's doing too, but it's just like everything needs to be, or everything's where it needs to be when it needs to be there, and there's no little adjustments, there's no fumbles, there's none of that. And to me, that's the most impressive kind of stuff. Now, you know, there's been other impressive things about different people that I've trained with, as far as, you know, trickiness or athleticism or whatever. But to me, the most impressive thing is just like precision jiu-jitsu, you know?
Yeah. So. Same. In fact, like I sometimes on, and I'm not saying that the jiu-jitsu we do on my channel is like particularly good, but like sometimes I get comments where it's like, people are like, oh, that's like you guys look like you're doing like a lazy roll. It's like, yeah, that's because you don't feel what's happening. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of like, you know, as I'm sure you know, it's like, I can only imagine you get the comments that you get probably if you post roll footage of, you know, some people who don't know what they're, but
it's really not really worth it. Like I don't like to. That's for that reason. I mean, even just on demos, a lot of the time. I mean, like it's comments are just, man. I'm grateful and appreciative that people watch and feel, you know, like compelled to comment anything. You know, especially if it's polite and it's appreciative. Then like I'm all about it, and I try to always like express that to people. But man, like some people, I just don't know what you're thinking. Like, what is your day like? That you're like, I'm gonna get on the internet, I'm gonna watch videos that I don't know what the hell is going on and criticize them. Like I can't imagine going to like a cooking channel you know, on YouTube, or going to like we established, I don't know anything about music. I'm not going to go onto a music channel and be like, oh dude, your chords are trash. Like, look at your, you know, you totally fucked up that souffle. You know, it's like, what? Why? Yeah. And so, you know, you get comments like, the analogy I used the other day that I think is fairly appropriate. Whenever people are obviously don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, I can't imagine that they train or have ever trained when they leave comments like, yeah, try that in this context. You know, it's like I'm showing like a beer and bolo or something. It's like, oh yeah, try that on the street and see what happens. You know, or Imanari roll. It's like, oh, he's gonna stomp your head in a street fight. And it's like saying, it's like looking at somebody dribble a basketball down a court and being like, oh yeah, try dribbling with a football. That's never gonna work. It's like, yeah, bro, because it's not. I agree. You know, it's two different contexts. And if you think that somebody is that dumb, you know, because the famous one is like pulling guard in a street fight. It's like who's gonna try a flying armbar or a flying triangle or pulling guard at all? A beer and bolo or an Imanari, who's gonna be stupid enough to try that in a street fight? Yeah. If they are stupid enough, then I can't imagine they've trained very long, you know, because it's like, and if they haven't trained very long, how are they going to pull those moves off anyway on a completely willing, compliant partner? Yeah. But it's like, I don't think anybody's that dumb, man. It's a fallacious argument between the uber self-defense guys and the uber sport guys, you know, like there's fallacious arguments on both sides, you know. It's like anything that's not self-defense is trash and anything that's not sport is trash, and it's just silly, man. Like, we've got too many. I'm like, we're all doing the same thing, and we should be trying to better each other instead of just like squabbling over, you know, who's not doing jiu-jitsu the right way. It's the silliest stuff, man.
Yeah, for sure. So if there were if you can make a video with any YouTuber, either jiu-jitsu or otherwise, who would you choose? And it could be people who you've already worked with too, if you like working with anybody. You know, who are your favorite YouTubers?
Oh man. Yeah, I don't watch as many of his videos as I used to, but like I still think, you know, I hold Chewy in high regard. I put Chewy way up there because like he's one of the OGs. He and I have both been doing it forever. Didn't even realize we were both in Kentucky for years. Like we were like a couple hours apart from each other. So I mean, he's one of the kind of OGs as far as like the jiu-jitsu YouTube channels. And there's people that have great stuff out there, man. Like I always hate naming people because it's like I'm gonna go back and be like, damn, why didn't I say this person, you know? Sure. But there's great people, you know. Jordan does jiu-jitsu. Like he really blew up on the scene, and the quality and consideration that he puts in every one of his videos is extremely admirable. I love watching what the B team does. Like they've really gotten into the content creation aspect of it, and a lot of that is because of Freddie over there. Like Freddie, who I met through just conversations, like Freddie from BJJ World News and TV, and those different accounts where he would cover kind of BJJ news. And you know, I knew he was a practitioner and everything, and then he started training down at B Team. I don't know when, but he does a lot. I think he's really in charge of a lot of their footage and a lot of the editing for it. And he does a great job as far as capturing a lot of the really interesting moments. And those guys just all have such a great personality that any of those guys, that would be so cool to have, like, to collaborate on a video with them. I had zero expectation that would ever really happen. Like, I don't know what they would really have to benefit out of that, because, you know, they just do things so differently. But I love watching Craig Jones. Like, I think he's hilarious. I think he's one of the best grapplers that's ever lived, you know, and he's extremely knowledgeable on top of being hilarious. But yeah, all those guys, man. Nicky Ryan and Damian Anderson and Ethan Krellinston, like, you know, all amazing guys. Obviously, you know, not necessarily like content creators per se, but you know, it would be interesting just to pick the brains of some of the guys out there. You know, John Danaher, obviously, that's got to be the most obvious answer. Although, you know, I've heard plenty of horrible things about his personality, but like he's brilliant though, you know. So it's just one of those things. but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go back and kick myself for not answering this better later. But those are the things that kind of come to mind right off the bat.
Well,
now I've been lucky that yeah. There we go. I'll think about it and have me back on and we'll do a part 2, and I'll change my Ninja Turtle answer and everything. You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a trip down your direction, because like I'd love to train, you know, with you and with Chewy and like Icy Mike and like Seth and all those people. So you guys are all like in that kind of similar area, right? They're like
yeah, it is. Yeah, well, Chewy is still back in Kentucky. He's in Louisville,
right.
So he's a bit away. But like yeah, it is. It's interesting, man, because like moving here has been interesting for that reason. Because Mike is not far from here, and obviously his channel. My last video was me and him, collaborating on something. We've done several videos together for different purposes, and he's a hilarious guy and just big personality, and he's just what you see on videos. That's him. Like he's one of the most authentic YouTubers, and that's why his channel has really like blown up. And the thing I admire about that dude is like he can do anything. He can do any topic on his channel. With me, I know certain things that if I try to do them on my channel, people are gonna be like, "Nah, this isn't it." Like this, that's stay in your lane, kind of thing.
Like what do you like? What would you not? What have you thought about doing and not done?
I've actually diminished. I used to do a lot more self-defense stuff because I am interested in it, but it's just like I got really tired of dealing with a lot of the comments. Just because like there's. You do something sporty and you can prove instantly whether it works or not, because the context, and you can see examples of it working or not working. The self-defense stuff, it's a little bit more voodoo science. You can kind of say like this is going to work for these reasons, but it's like I'm not going to go out to a bar and start a fight just so I can prove it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what you want from me, so. There's a lot of that. I work with a group that I'm really proud of the work that we've done, because we put a lot of time and effort and energy into it. It's called Knife Control Concepts. So obviously it's all about like knife defense stuff, but it's not in the traditional sense, because we all were kind of jaded with a lot where we came up. It's me with my self-defense background from jiu-jitsu and from other arts, and then some of these other guys that also have jiu-jitsu backgrounds but also come from like Krav Maga and stuff. Yeah. And so what we saw was like a lot of just like silliness and BS that, again, with knife defense though, it's all voodoo science. It's like I'm not going to go out and start a knife fight so I can prove my shit works. It's not the best way to approach that scientific discovery. So what we noticed though was like the only way you're gonna defend yourself in a knife attack is in grappling range. Like you can't stab that's not in grappling range unless you throw the knife at somebody, right? Yeah. So that means that standing wrestling, establishing 2-on-1s or Russian ties, like the different chain wrestling drills are gonna, with some variability, with some modification, are gonna be the most effective thing. And then, being able to control somebody on the ground in that same kind of like context, jiu-jitsu and grappling, that's going to work. Wrestling's going to work. So, absolutely. The thing that I like about what we're doing, it does fulfill that concept of we are putting this in an extremely self-defense oriented context, because we are talking about the potential for defending yourself in an edge weapons scenario. But we're also doing stuff that can directly apply to your standard grappling. I mean, we're teaching like 2-on-1s, we're teaching arm drags, we're teaching snap downs, we're teaching dumps and crackdowns and all these things that, while obviously considering that the person has a weapon, but we've made and continually are trying to make the necessary modifications to where it's applicable for weapons-based environment and not weapons-based environment. So that way, again, like I was saying before, you're checking the modalities of, does this work in grappling in different situations? Does it work in MMA? Does it work in self-defense? And whatever common threads are going to be consistent, those are where you're going to get the most bang for your buck or the most return on your investment, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So what you're describing actually, and you might actually know some of the people who... our self-defense person who teaches up here at Stout, Sean from Anti-Fragile Training. I don't know if you've ever met Sean before.
I don't know that I'm not sure that I've met him, and I'm gonna feel like an asshole if I have. But and I don't remember it. I remember the Anti-Fragile like I know that moniker, I know that name. So
yeah. That's his Instagram, and we so he teaches up at all of the stout schools up here, self-defense, and that's exactly what you just described. We like it's all grappling, stand-up hand fighting, wrestling based things, which is exactly. You can't stab somebody from across the room, so you're gonna have to get up and take that knife off them and make sure they're not gonna stab you. So it's we train exactly the same way. So yeah, and I mean that's the thing. It's like, and the other comments that you get on something like that is like, oh well, that's you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that in a knife fight. Like you shouldn't get in a knife fight. You should just run away, or just situational awareness your way out of it or something. It's like, all right, cool and all, but like if you've got your 3-year-old with you that you can't run that fast carrying, or they can't run away. Yeah. Or if you're a cop, it's not like you can see somebody getting stabbed and just like, oh, I got to get out of here. Or you're in an elevator.
There are reasons. Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, watch stabbing videos. Like it's just horrible to say, but watch what happens, and it's like running is an option for a very short period of time, and nobody you see it because you see dumbasses, sometimes they will stand in posture in front of somebody with a knife, but for the most part when that knife comes out, first thing is like usually people get stabbed and they don't know it. Overwhelmingly you hear in like police reports and other kind of like encounters, I just thought he was hitting me, and then I look down, I see that I'm bleeding out, and so a lot of times that's the idea, is like you don't even see the knife until it's already in you, but that doesn't mean the fight's over either. Right. It's like, so what are you gonna do? You're just gonna like do nothing, That's what I always wonder with these criticisms of I'll show the most basic kind of escape from a mount or something, and somebody's like, yeah, well, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. All right, cool. Where's your video? Show me what's better. That's the thing. It's like you're going to sit there and criticize, but you're not offering any solution that's any better than this, And if you did, I'm sure that I could probably pick some things apart on yours. But how about we take the good elements and try to improve on those, and not just like throw the baby out with the bathwater whenever it comes to technique training.
Yeah. It's like, how many knife fights have you been in, commentator?
All right. Yeah.
And actually, show me somebody who's been in, I don't know, more than one knife fight.
Yeah.
Or two.
Yeah. And I'm still not going to listen to that person because they're already making some bad decisions in life if they've been in repeated knife fights. You're going places where people are trying to stab you a lot, dude. I don't want to listen about your advice on anything.
I thought you get away with one knife fight. Maybe it wasn't your fault. But once you exceed one knife fight, now the common denominator is you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's you. You're the problem. It's you.
Yeah, get away from those knives, man. Well, that's
date different people.
Oh man, but yeah, that's about an hour or so. So we can probably cut it off there. But I'll end the call, and we can if you want to chat for a minute or two afterwards, that's fine too. But I appreciate again you being on the show. Thanks again, dude.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation. It was fun. I've been on some lighthearted podcasts and some fun podcasts before, but like this is definitely the conversation and the topics and stuff has been a blast. I don't get to talk about Ninja Turtles nearly enough in my life, so I appreciate all the fun stuff as well. And I think that it kept the conversation going too. So I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm happy to come back anytime you'll have me.
Cool. We can nerd out even harder next time if you want. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
And can you tell people where to find you and any upcoming things you want to plug? Please feel free.
Absolutely, yeah. I try to keep my seminars and stuff listed. I'm available for seminars all the time. I try to keep them booked out about 3 months in advance or something if I can. But anywhere it's Knight Jiu-Jitsu, like KNIGHT Jiu-Jitsu. So on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. I've got a Patreon where I've put a lot of my class and seminar footage that I record, so that's like extra stuff that you don't see on YouTube. So all the socials. I have instructionals on BJJ Fanatics. That's where I've put a lot of work into those. I've got a new one that's going to be coming out on deconstructing for defense, I think is what I titled it, and it's all about choke and strangle, deconstructing the elements for defensive measures for that. So it's kind of a cool approach. And I got a lot of different stuff on BJJ Fanatics, as well as some sportier stuff. But yeah, anywhere like that, just look up Eli Knight or Knight Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm probably gonna pop up. And if it's not LA Knight, that's a pro wrestler, and he used to be called Eli Drake. So sometimes you'll put in Eli Knight and you'll get LA Knight stuff. So I need to figure out how to sue that guy for some reason. I don't know.
That'll make it worse. Then there'll be a bunch of articles about you suing him, and they'll be.
Oh, I know. Then I'll look like the bad guy. Yeah. But I need some of that WWE money. So
fair enough. All right. Well, thanks again for being on, man. Thanks everybody for watching. And come down and train, and we'll see you next time.